Okay, welcome to our Lag LaOmer or Lag BaOmer service of 2025. My name's Martin Dimaggio for those that don't know me, and welcome to Spinoza Chavurah and Shabbat Shalom. Please sing along. Oops. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת עמים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת עמים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. La 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 la. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for people to dwell together. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for people to dwell together in harmony, in harmony. La 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 la. And if someone could read, please.
Shabbat is set apart from routine so that the delights of being alive can be savored without the distractions of noisy demands, jobs, money, and the strivings of the ego. Shabbat is not a burden, it is ours, and within it we may find joy and happiness, rest and respite. Let us make it our own, adapting traditions and creating new ones, finding new and creative ways to taste its sweetness and finding ways to love and to laugh together.
Thank you. And we, humanity, will keep a day of rest, observing it throughout the ages as an agreement for all time. For in 6 days we work, and on the seventh day we cease from work and are refreshed. ושומרים בני האדם את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושומרים בני האדם את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשו מלאכה, עשו מלאכה, עשו מלאכה, ושומרים בני האדם את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבתו וינפשו, שבתו וינפשו, שבתו וינפשו, ושומרים בני האדם את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Love life with happiness. Come into community with joy.
En hayim besimcha, simcha, simcha, simcha. Bohu lekahel bien na na, na 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 na. Evu en hayim besimcha, simcha, simcha, simcha. Bohu lekahel bien na na, na 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 na. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Would somebody like to read the English? And if they know the traditional tune for Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat, go ahead.
Sing a song for the Sabbath day. It is good to be grateful for life and to sing with joy on this day. The upright will bloom like the date palm, growing tall like the cedars of Lebanon. Mizmor, I don't know.
Okay. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לחיים, ולזמר בשמחה היום, ולזמר בשמחה היום. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לחיים, ולזמר בשמחה היום, ולזמר בשמחה היום. צדיק כתמר יפרח יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח. צדיק כתמר יפרח יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח. כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, יזכה. כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, יזכה. צדיק כתמר יפרח יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח. כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, יזכה. כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, כארז בלבנון יזכה, יזכה. And somebody like to read the English?
Listen,
Listen.
Israel, we are all one. Humanity is one. Come, let us work together to improve this world.
And if you'd like, the tradition is to cover your eyes, so feel free to do that or not. Shema Yisrael, Kulanu Echad, Adam Echad. הבה נעבוד לתקן את העולם הזה. And we will love life with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. And these words will be upon our heart, impressing them upon our children, reciting them when we stay at home and when we are away, when we lie down and when we get up, binding them as signs on our hands. Let them serve as symbols on our foreheads, inscribing them on the doorposts of our homes and on our gates. And we pause for silent reflection. We hope for the day, we hope for the day when all people will live in security and peace, when violence will not be committed by one person against another, by one group against another, or by one nation against another. We express our special concern that Jews throughout the world may live in security and peace, but our concern does not end with the Jewish people. Like the prophet Isaiah, we long for the time when all people shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, when nation shall not take up sword against nation. Lo yilmeldu od milchama, and our world shall never again know war. We now turn our minds and hearts towards those who need our love, who are ill, who are lonely, who suffer pain, or who have been wronged. Let us pause as we call out their names.
Jack, Gross.
Karen,
Marcia G.
Nancy,
Javier
Robbie
Leighton.
Astor, Laura Ziegler,
Sarah,
Hugh, Joe, Kathy, Franny,
Jerry Weiner, Rosary Marinara,
Brian Funk, and
To those who long for healing, refuah shlema, with compassion and with feeling, we say refuah shlema. There's a light inside you that is there to guide you, to help you find the strength you need. Refuah shlema. And may you feel a sense of peace. Refuah shlema.
I'm hearing someone's television again or something. Thank you so much. Okay, so it is like Laomer in the Sephardi pronunciation, or like Baomer in the Ashkenazi pronunciation, and that is the Hilula, the anniversary celebration of Bar Yochai. Does anyone know who Bar Yochai was? Is that nobody?
I forgot.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, so he's a sage from the Talmud, and he's associated with the Zohar because the writing of the Zohar was attributed to him, but 1,000 years after he passed away. And there is no evidence of him having written the Zohar, but for some reason, he's the proxy author of the Zohar. But there are very interesting stories about him. So whether or not he invented the concept of Kabbalah is lost to history, but there are lots of stories about him that teach us a lot. So what I'm going to do is play a video which introduces one of the most famous stories about him. And then we're going to answer together the questions that the person presenting the video is asking.
Hi everyone! Lag BaOmer is coming up, which according to tradition is the anniversary of the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a Talmudic sage from the 2nd century. Every year on Lag BaOmer, tens of thousands of people travel to his burial place in Meron, a small town in northern Israel where they sing and dance around giant bonfires to celebrate his legacy. But who was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? What exactly was his legacy? And what about his legacy is so important that we're celebrating it? To answer this, we're going to take a deep dive into a fascinating story from the Talmud about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. When we're done, I think we'll have a new and meaningful way to connect to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Lag BaOmer. The story, found in Masechet Shabbat, is set at a point in history when the Romans were occupying Israel. The Romans hear that Rabbi Shimon was criticizing them, and they sentence him to death. So, Rabbi Shimon and his son, Rabbi Elazar, go into hiding in a secluded cave, where they spend their days doing nothing but studying Torah and praying. They're in the cave for 12 years, miraculously sustained by a spring of water and a carob tree, until one day, Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet himself, informs them they are no longer being pursued. Now, let's see what happens when they leave the cave and re-enter the world. Nafku, they emerged. Chazu inshi de kakarve vizare, and they saw people plowing and sowing seeds. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai doesn't like what he sees. Amar, manichin chaye olam v'oskim b'chaye sha'ah. He cried out, "These people are abandoning eternal life for life of this world. They're putting aside Torah study to work their fields, worthless earthly pursuits." He couldn't imagine why anyone would do that. Kol makom shenotnim einehem miyad nisraf. And suddenly, any place Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son would turn their gaze, it immediately went up in flames. Yasta bat kol, a voice from heaven called out to them, V'amar lahem, and it said, L'hachariv olami etzatem? Did you come out here to destroy my world? Chizru l'ma'aratchem, go back into your cave, before you cause any more damage. After this heavenly rebuke, Rabbi Shimon and his son returned to the cave for one more year, and then emerged once again. But this time, things go a little differently. Nafku, they came out. Pol hecha de havemachi Rabbi Elazar, havimasi Rabbi Shimon. Whatever Rabbi Elazar damaged, Rabbi Shimon repaired. In other words, Rabbi Elazar is still burning things left and right. But for Rabbi Shimon, something has changed. Not only is he not spitting fire from his eyes anymore, all the damage that his son causes, he's able to undo. Rabbi Shimon then turns to his son and says, Dai la'olam ani ve'ata. My son, you and I, we're enough for the world. Now let's stop here and just name a few things that should be bothering us. First, what's with this whole laser eyes thing? You study Torah for a bunch of years and then, boom, you become a Marvel superhero? I mean, I'm no Rabbi Shimon, but I spent some time in yeshiva and all I got was a bad back. Also, why did they go on this rampage of destruction, and what changed for Rabbi Shimon the second time around? One day he's a human flamethrower, and a year later he's a peacemaker. What happened? And whatever it was, it seems to have something to do with that cryptic statement, you and I are enough for the world. Enough for what? How are we supposed to understand that? We're not ready to answer these questions just yet. Let's finish the story and bear our questions in mind as we see how it all gets resolved. V'hade panya demale shabta. One Friday afternoon, as the sun was setting and Shabbat was arriving, Chazu hahu saba. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son saw an old man. Tahave nakit tre medane asav rahit ben hashmashot. He was holding 2 big bundles of hadassim, fragrant myrtle branches, and running at twilight. Amru le, they said to him, Hani lamalach, why do you have these branches in your hands? Amar lahu l'chvod Shabbat. He responded, they're in honor of Shabbat. Apparently hadassim were the 2nd century version of a fragrant bouquet of flowers. V'tiskilach b'chad. They asked him, wouldn't one bundle be enough? Chad keneged zachor, v'chad keneged shamor. The old man explained, one bundle corresponds to zachor, the commandment to remember Shabbat, and the other to shamor, the commandment to guard Shabbat. In other words, he seems to be saying that since the Bible uses 2 different words when it commands us to observe Shabbat, it deserves a double honor. Amr le lebre, chazi kama chavivin mitzvot al Yisrael. After hearing this, Rabbi Shimon turned to his son and said, look how beloved the commandments are to the children of Israel. Finally, yativ da'atayhu. Their minds were put to ease, and they lived happily ever after. So, do we feel like this story makes sense now? Do we know what it's really about? And what have we learned about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Well,
that's where we will start to ask, do we feel the story makes sense? What is the story really about? So don't believe that I can do meeting rooms, but that's fine because we could just discuss it here. So what is the story really about? And does it make any sense to us? Also, what have we learned about Bar Yochai?
Well, I don't know. All I'm thinking is that they made assumptions about the people because they were farming and they weren't inquiring about their beliefs or how they were otherwise observing Jewish traditions or whatever. And then they learned that those assumptions were wrong. That's all I could get out of it.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Who would like to expand on that or respond to that or contribute their own thoughts?
Well, I understand that. I mean, he kind of like developed this notion that okay, there's a division of labor, though to me it was my instinct would have been to say no, well, there are other ways of learning Torah or of praising God if that was a thing. That was not the road he took, but the story of the mortal branches was a bit confusing for me.
Yeah, sure.
Is there
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a thing with branches other than Sukkot? Because it kind of put me in mind of Sukkot. It also put me in mind a little bit of 2 loaves of challah.
Right. And the candles.
Yes.
Yeah, they're about that too. Shamor ve'zachor. To keep and remember. Yeah.
I was just going to say, if nobody farms, who eats? I mean, that totally
Right.
confused me. I mean, he was assuming that the people who were doing the farming shouldn't have been doing the farming, but somebody's got to be doing the farming. It seems to me.
Well, he had been eating carob all this time, so he thought everyone could eat out of carob or something like that. I don't know.
Right.
Now the thing is, for me, middle is the smell of the besamim for the Havdalah. So also the word, but I'm still.
Yeah. Okay, so some of go ahead.
There can be multiple meanings to the story, and I think one of the things that I gathered from it was no matter how righteous you think you are, you don't have the right to judge, and that
Yes.
God rebuked him trying to play judge.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely one of the ways it's been understood. Yeah.
I'm impressed with something like the extreme piety for all those years gave him the magical powers. The guy doesn't take away the magical powers; he just sends him back to the cave so he can think about things a bit more. And he comes out, he has even more magical powers.
Yes. Because what was he using the magical powers for?
I think that that supernatural things are part of the old wisdom material, Torah, Talmud,
Yeah.
and that supernatural comes into it. But I don't really believe it happened.
No. Well, we're not suggesting that it happened. Um, no, but do you want to expand on that, Jeffrey?
Well, it seems like God could have just simply taken away the magical powers, but in the story, he sends it back to the cave because I don't think the intention is to, prevent him from having the magical powers, but just to get him to use the magical powers for the right purpose.
Right,
Um,
exactly. Yes, definitely in the story, that's the intent of the author to teach something about the use of the supernatural. Um, I mean, there is another humorous take on this that we can also watch, and you have to excuse her use of certain words at certain points in it, if that's okay with everyone. And I thought, well, seeing as we're a humanistic congregation and we like to use humor every now and then, shall we look at a woman's non-theistic take on the story? And then we can see if it makes more sense. Some of you may be familiar with Miriam Anzovine. I'm having trouble making this full screen. Okay, here we go.
Shalom, friends. The Jewish holiday of Lag BaOmer is this week, so it's time for me to tell you the wild story of fire-eyed hermit folk hero and pyromaniac Shimon Bar Yochai, the OG Jewish space laser. So welcome to Throwback Daf Reactions, Shabbat 33 and 34. The Romans are occupying Judea. They had graphically martyred Rabbi Akiva using the trademarked Ramsey Bolton method. Shit was dire. 3 students of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eli, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai are gathered together in a group chat. Rabbi Yehuda was a diplomatic person who knew you can never be too careful in case somebody has bugged your Beit Midrash. He said how nice it was that the Romans had made so many bridges and marketplaces and bathhouses, really snazzing up the place. Rabbi Yossi didn't say anything, just left it on red. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, on the other hand, had absolutely no chill whatsoever. No. He went off. He was like, these motherfuckers build bridges so they can collect taxes. Marketplaces are just extremely convenient for their sex workers. LOL, bathhouses? Romans need spa days to recover from how much they fucking suck. Clown emoji, clown emoji, clown emoji. Unfortunately, it turns out that some rando also named Yehuda had been added to the Signal group chat by Pete Hegseth. And that unscrupulous narc had just immediately gone and ratted to the Romans. The Romans were out in force, hunting Shimon Bar Yochai door to door like it was an ice raid in 2025 America. First, he decided to hide in the Beit Midrash with his son Elazar. And his wife, let's call her Sarah, would risk her life to bring them food. But TBH, that would be the #1 place that I would look for him personally. Might as well just add a neon sign that says, "Hi, we're here." Shimon Bar Yochai is like, we can't actually trust a woman. She could give up our location under torture. Or she could just blab because women have scrambly brains and things fall out sometimes. So he took Elazar and noped out of society, community, the world, his responsibilities to his wife, and went to hide in a literal off-the-grid man cave. Didn't even have the decency to divorce her first so she could move on with her life. #justice for Sarah. Shimon and Elazar, with nothing but the robes on their backs, begin their new lives as hermits. A miraculous spring of water pops up so they can stay hydrated. And for food they had a carob tree, which was also allegedly miraculous, but given the undeniable fact that carobs are just misery in a vaguely edible format, I firmly believe this part of the story was paid for by the carob lobby. These are my beliefs. So this was like a typical day in the life of Shimon and Elazar. Spend all day studying Torah, but in order to preserve their one set of clothing, they did the studying while naked and buried up to their necks in sand. Now, right away, I need to pause here and say that this is too much exfoliation. Do not be influenced by them. Heed me when I say this. Too much. Then, when it was time to pray, they got dressed and prayed. Maybe for a miraculous aloe plant, too, for the incipient dermatitis. Then they ate some carobs, took their clothes back off, and resumed their full-body sand bath. Day in, day out, they did this for 12 years. Glamping it 'twas not. No. This extreme lifestyle took a toll on more than just their skin barrier. For both of them, but especially for Elazar, who was brought into this intensive, isolated homeschooling experience as a youth. Then finally, they saw through their cave Ring doorbell camera that Elijah the prophet was standing outside of the cave, loudly wondering to himself who on earth was going to tell Shimon Bar Yochai that the emperor was dead. Shimon and Elazar were no longer fugitives, so they take their first steps out of the cave in 12 years. A strange, disorienting rebirth. They're blinking, they're unkempt. They have no idea how to deal with society or other human beings after being in lockdown for so long. Relatable, we've all been there. But when their eyes adjust to the brightness, they see something horrifying. Horrifying. What is it? Jewish farmers farming. I know, perhaps you thought it would be like a group of nefarious Roman soldiers. LOL, no. I kind of wish, honestly, because the next part is not great. Shimon Bar Yochai is like, these motherfuckers could be studying Torah all day, but no, they're out here to work jobs to provide food and shelter for their families. Why don't they use a free miraculous carob tree and replace all their clothes and toilet paper with sand? This is appalling. Clearly, for all the long years of Torah learning Shimon and Elazar had done, they had failed to grasp some rather important lessons about life and humanity and stuff. But at the same time, in the cave, they had developed the skill of eyeball-based pyrokinesis. Olympic level, evil eye. So they chose violence and put those farms on blast. Literally. Everything that Rabbi Shimon and Elazar looked at judgmentally burns in front of them. They flambe the countryside like someone said Dracarys. Yikes. At this point, if you're thinking to yourself, this is bad, this is kind of batshit insane, you're not the only one. God thought so too. A divine voice emerged from heaven and said, guys, did you leave the cave in order to destroy the world I created? Do you know how long it took me to make all this? 6 whole days. Get back in the cave and sit in the cornea. Shimon and Elazar were then forced back into their spelunking timeout for another 12 months to think about their choices. 12 months is the length of time of Gehenna, Jewish hell, for those who suck. So Shimon and Elazar estimated that surely their atonement would be completed around that time. Atonement aided, I'm sure, by the pain of all their skin rashes and their carob-based intestinal distress. After a year was up, the divine voice returned to tell them to leave the cave for good, but keep it cute. Keep it cute. It's one thing to hide out from the Romans, but come on, stop the eyeball arson. But as therapy unfortunately wasn't going to be invented for like a really long time, Shimon and Elazar, they struggle. Elazar is still randomly shooting fire out of his eyeballs. To be fair, it's difficult to find an ophthalmologist who's willing to look at that for, obvious reasons. Danger! But wherever Elazar burned, Rabbi Shimon would try to heal. He would say, my son, it's all right. You and I make up for the entire lame-ass rest of the world. We study Torah the right way. The elitism is so strong that in my mind, this is all said in Parker Posey's Victoria Ratliff accent from White Lotus Season 3. No wonder they had to leave the cave. There wasn't enough room for the ego. Now at this time, it's almost Shabbat, and they see an elderly man carrying 2 bundles of myrtle. Sadly, not aloe and cortisone cream. And they ask him why he's carrying those 2 bundles. And he's like, this bundle is for the verse, remember the Shabbat day to keep it holy. And this bundle is for the verse, observe the Shabbat day to keep it holy. Rabbi Shimon says to Elazar, wait, what? Turns out you can have like a normal day job and still love Judaism and Torah and the mitzvot? Mind-blowing. Honestly, it was kind of a relief to feel that they weren't the only people doing Judaism right. That weight was lifted from their atrophied, sandpapery shoulders. They stopped being as furious at their fellow Jews for not Jewishing like they did. Because there is more than one way to be a good Jewish person. But you can only know that if you leave the confines of an insular worldview to observe that with your own two eyes. Observing things being what eyes are usually for, not setting things on fire. Shimon Bar Yochai was treated for his extreme case of eczema, and as his skin healed, he sought to repair the world as best he could and be an active member of the community again. And yet, you can take Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai out of the cave, but you cannot take the rage out of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. One day, as he was traveling around purifying cemeteries, which is something that he did, a fellow elder of the community decided to...
We can stop at that point, because then the story continues into something else. So how was that? Was it okay that she used a couple of swear words?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay, good. All
Oh,
right.
she's always okay. She's always okay in my book.
Okay, now, okay, so now we can ask the question, does the story make any more sense? And what does it teach us? I personally, maybe I should share what it means to me. First of all, it's from Masechet Shabbat. So a Masechet is like a polemic, like a problem that needs to be debated. So the fact that there's a tractate called Masechet Shabbat means that people were trying to understand how to observe Shabbat. And so that's something that's relevant to it, actually. And then it moves into avoidance from society and an over-reliance on studying about the supernatural, which in the story means that they emerge with supernatural powers, which are used to wipe out worthless earthly pursuits. So there's an anger with people that don't spend all their time studying about the supernatural. And one could argue that that's like relevant to humanistic Jews because, you know, and one of the reasons that Sephardim, but particularly Western Sephardim, also like this story because Western Sephardi tradition does not have much Kabbalah. So one of the reasons why it's still interesting and still observed, as is Hilula, is because the story teaches us that we need to live a regular life, that we need to be part of the world, we need to go out and farm, and that we bring to our Judaism what we get from the secular world, rather than living our life only for Judaism and bringing that into the secular. So the two, the myrtle branches are like symbolic of that. You know, you're beautifying the Shabbat, the mitzvot of Shabbat, with what you've, with the natural world, with the work of your hands, so to speak. So I don't know if that and the previous two stories make the story of Bar Yochai any more meaningful. What do we think?
As I said, there's more than one way to be Jew, and to be a good Jew. So yeah, and also don't be a jerk.
Right. Yeah. Did anything different stand out for people? Did anything that we've not already discussed kind of stand out?
Man cave example. That was pretty bright. That was brilliant.
Say more.
I said that was very creative. It was a brilliant use of man cave.
Right. Because men retreat from their
Yes.
relationship.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And actually, that's also in the story where he looks at his son and says, "You and I are enough for the world," as if all the world needs is a man and his son to study Torah, you know, like in their man
Yeah,
cave or their
sure.
PS3, like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that line really stood out for me, and the reinterpretation we saw in the video
Mm,
made it much clearer what that line meant.
mm. Yeah, right. Mm.
Well,
Um,
I
I,
don't know
I
if this,
miss
no, go ahead, whoever.
I miss the effects that it had on his wife the first time around with the story because we didn't get that part, and we didn't. I didn't really catch on to the fact he didn't trust women at all.
Mm.
Where he
Yeah,
first he's a woman to hide, and then he's like, "No, I can't trust her."
right. Yeah, 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 yeah. She's absent, and actually, um, in the Talmud, there are a lot more references to women with their actual names. But a lot of the time, there's like a negative, kind of a negative character associated with said woman. But in this one, Miriam Anzovin actually just gives her a name, Sarah, you know, justice for
Mhm.
Sarah, she said.
She's just
So,
making that up. I mean, she doesn't know his wife's name was Sarah.
no,
He doesn't even know if he was married. Well, he has a son, but
no, we do know he's married.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like the man cave thing, isn't it? It's like not only did they just kind of think, okay, well, we need to just retreat from society, but they retreated from his wife and Elazar's mother. Well, we don't
Mm.
know that that's his mother because they could have had more than one wife, but let's just assume it's his mother.
To put
Um,
her aguna status for 12 years and then some more is really not a very good human way to be in the world.
no, she's technically not Aguna because he's not. Yeah, they're not. Yes, it's kind of Aguna, but the Talmud actually says that if a Jewish man is away from home for more than a week, he has to come home and he is obliged to have intimate relations with his wife for her sake. The man in Judaism is not entitled to intimate relations with his wife. The wife is entitled to it with her husband. If he is away for a month, he has to come home for a week. If he's away for a year, he has to come home for a month. Um, so we can
Sorry,
problematize that
where is this? Where is this written?
in the Talmud.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a well-known halacha that a woman is entitled to intimacy from her husband. So him going away for 12 years is against that halacha there. I mean, it probably wasn't invented at that time, but around that time it was invented. So
Then he has
yeah,
to stay home for a year, but he wasn't home for a year. He had to go back into the
no,
cave.
yes, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's a very powerful story. It's one of the stories from Talmud that I remember all of the details of because it's oddly so meaningful. You know, every time I hear Bar Yochai, I just think laser eyes. Like, so it's true because she said it was like a Marvel. He went away in a cave to study Torah to become a Marvel character. And we do remember Marvel characters, don't we? So it's very clever. Yeah.
I have a different thought. I don't know if this is totally relevant or not, but to them, studying Torah is for them. I mean, it's their, how does that help anybody else? Except you could say that they are then teachers, rabbis, teachers, but they don't seem to appreciate the fact that that's a sort of a special role and everybody can't have that role. But just being contemplative all the time is, on the one hand, only for you. But if you become a teacher, then that's for everyone. So I don't know,
Yeah.
that's just go ahead about it.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Judaism doesn't have what's it called? Hermeticism, monasticism, that kind of thing.
Nor hermits.
Yeah, we don't have that. And this is one of the stories that kind of adds weight to that, that we don't go off and contemplate for 12 years and avoid the world. So yeah. But I think that they thought that studying Torah was all that they needed to understand life. What else would one do in a cave for 12 years whilst waiting for a Roman emperor to persecute you or not, you know?
It brought to mind people, particularly during time of war, who are traumatized and separated from ordinary life in concentration camps and internment camps, fleeing and living as hermits in the woods if they don't find a group, and who very often turn to spiritual practices and ways to survive, and who carry that trauma with them when they have the opportunity to go back to quote normal life, and the struggle they have to be part of society and to make what they have experienced useful to others in the community.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. I think we've said most of the things that we can say. So the eggs thing is not related to the story at all, but it's a folk tradition from North Africa. Eggs are in Judaism already. We have them on the Pesach Seder and things like that. And what some people do is they take the egg and write their hopes on it for the future, and bake it basically in the fire, and then put it in the sort of foundations or the ground of your home, around your home. Of course, you don't have to do any or all of those things, but I always think like something is better than nothing. So if you want to take the time to do it, you can do it now. Not the baking and everything, but the writing your hopes. Some people use paper and wrap the egg in it.
And you can't do this.
It would be really nice if some people could take a photo, either before or after baking it, or if you're not going to bake it, just of your eggs. And we can put it in our Facebook group. Are we done? May your hopes be fulfilled. Oh. My keynote just crashed, so let's get it back. Okay, before I play it, there's a piyut, a Jewish liturgical poem that is sung, and it's about Bar Yochai. So different communities sing different verses of it, but I thought it would just be nice to play it. It's not about the theology of it, but it's just about the culture of it, the tradition.
يوحيني شحتة الشريك غاشي من ساسون بحضري خبر يوحي شبر مشحت قدس من شحتة من ميدان سكتت ديزل قدس حبس على روش خبيري خبر يوحي موشى بطبيع شعبتا يوم نستا يوم شير براحتا من عرض صوري شمكاني تاهد خبادري
Okay, let us stand as we recall those who are no longer with us. If you're remembering anyone at this point in time, please say their names aloud.
Al Brown,
Irene, Ivan, Joseph, and Helen.
Brian and Charles.
May there be a good remembrance and compassion and kindness and love from all the world upon our honorable loved ones who are no longer present. Let us make a place in our hearts to remember their good names, and let us honor them with good deeds. May their memory be a blessing. Amen. יהי נא זיכרון טוב וחסד ורחמים ואהבה מכל העולם לכבוד אהובינו שאינם עוד. הבה ננשוא בלבנו את שמותיהם הטובים ונוקירם במעשים טובים, זיכרונם לברכה. Amen. Please sit down. And we're at the point of Kiddush. So please have your drink ready and your challah, or whatever you use. Would somebody like to read the English as we raise our glasses?
And we, human beings, resolve to keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout our generations, as an everlasting agreement. For in 6 days we work, and on the seventh day we rest and are refreshed. Therefore let us bless the Sabbath day and sanctify it. Blessed is the light in life, and blessed is the fruit of the vine to life.
ושומרים בני האדם את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם, כי 6 ימים עשו מלאכה, וביום השביעי שבתו וינפשו. על כן נברך את יום השבת ונקדשהו. ברוך האור בחיים, וברוך פרי הגפן לחיים. And would somebody like to read this as we lift up our bread?
If we can eat and drink together, we can live and love together. So let us bless those that bring forth bread from the earth. Nevarech at Monsiim lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
I would